Hello and welcome to this third video about asking for a pay rise. Now, having watched the first two videos, you know what to say, but now we need to think about how we say it. So we talked about the fact that asking for money throws up a lot of internal junk for quite a lot of us. Are we worth it? What if they say no and don't think that I'm adding value to the business or the team? That can feel really uncomfortable. We can also feel like we've got limited options. You know, I've spoken to women before who feel like, well, I really need this job. I really need this. I can't go anywhere else. My skill set is limited. So we can feel like we've got limited options, but often that's a feeling and not a fact. So we need to check in with that. And asking for money can provoke status differentials. So we can feel like the person that we're asking for money from is up here and that we're down here. And so that will show up in our body, our breath, our voice, the words that we use and the way that we state what we want. So we want to be trying to readdress that status differential as much as possible. So in the last two videos, we looked at what was our end game, who we were talking to, and what do we say in what order. So we discovered in the last video that we need to show that we're on board with the mission, the team, the person that we're talking to. We need to warn them that this might be a bit of a stretchy conversation. Now that's a dependent one. So it depends on the relationship you have with the other person. There's plenty of people who don't need a warning. There's plenty of people that do. We need to demonstrate or articulate what value we find in them as a leader and ask them what value they find in us. We need to state what we want clearly and concisely without emotion. And then we need to make sure that we are asking them what we can explore and resolve the situation. So how can we get it solved together? So it's you and them against the problem of your pay rise. And we need to have a very, very clear timeline. Now, obviously, there's going to be back and forth in all of that. But just as a structure, that's a nice structure to be following. But now we're going to dive into troubleshooting, to thinking about what happens to our body, our breath, and our voice when we show up. So the first thing that has to happen here is mindset work and your right to ask. Your right to ask for a pay rise. Now, that is not the same thing as your right to getting a pay rise, right? There's multiple reasons why you should, shouldn't, could or couldn't do or don't get a pay rise within an organisation. That's to some extent a little bit beyond your control, but you absolutely have a right to ask. So can you see the difference? If we say, well, I have a right to this money, it's going to show up very differently in our body, our breath and our voice than I have a right to ask for this. I'm doing a good job. I am productive. I am a great member of this team. I have a right to ask. Can you see how the energy of those two things are very different? And we want to be asking in the energy of, I have a right to ask. And then you have a right to decide what you do when you get the answer to your request as well. So mindset work, first of all, I have a right to ask. Then we need to work on the body language, making sure that it's open. So our chest is open, our shoulders are down, our sternum, so it's this bony plate at the beginning, is nice and relaxed, that we're calm. Now, one of the practical ways you can make sure that you maintain that feeling in your body is actually having your palms up. So if you've got a desk in front of you, you want to put your palms on the desk with your palms facing up. If not, leave your hands resting on your thighs, but with the backs of your hands touching your thighs, so your palms are facing up. If we keep our palms like that, we'll feel open and ready to receive. If you clench your fists now or turn your palms down, can you feel how that closes everything in and tightens everything up? Turn your palms back the other way. And just notice actually how much easier it is to breathe deeply. Now, the other place you might want to notice is jaw. So if we're getting a bit tight or tense, our jaw will tighten up. So we want to make sure that our jaw is nice and relaxed. If you have your feet flat on the floor, that will help you feel grounded and calm. So it sort of brings the energy down in the body as well, so that you're having a calm and rational adult conversation because you have a right to have this conversation. Yeah. So we want to be making sure that our body is nice and relaxed and open. Now let's think about them. We need to start thinking and contingency planning around their reactions. So what is it they're likely to do? Might they become angry or passive aggressive or manipulative or outright aggressive? Or might they just be really nice and kind and go, yes, I know, yes, you definitely should be getting a pay rise. Absolutely, no, I totally agree. And then nothing happened. In my opinion, that's actually the hardest thing to deal with. I call it cloud wrestling. When it's lovely and it's soft and it's gorgeous and it's not doing anything. So that's often for me the harder one. So we need to be very clear. But what we need to do is contingency plan. Think about the person we know. Think about the relationship we have. Think about their drivers. So go back to that second video and plan. What are they likely to do if we ask them for more money? How are they likely to react? What are they going to say? What questions might they ask? Because the more we can plan what might happen, the easier it will be for us to react when it does happen. So we really need to think all those through. We also need to be aware that their stuff is not our stuff. So if someone is becoming aggressive or passive aggressive or just unpleasant to be around, it's not your stuff. You don't have to deal with it. And I have two clients who do two different things. One has this gorgeous bubble that she puts around herself that just bounces stuff off that she doesn't want to receive from other people. The other one has this metaphorical Macintosh, the yellow raincoats. And so when stuff hits her, it just slides off and it's not her stuff. She's like, not mine, not taking it in. Not mine, not taking it in. So we need to think about what they might do and how we're going to mentally protect ourselves from anything that we don't want to take on board. And at the end of that, we really need to know what we will do if we don't get what we want. So what are we going to do? Do we take it higher up? Do we walk away? Do we find a new position? Do we change teams? What's our absolute end game if we don't get what we want and we feel like we've had a really productive conversation to try and get there? So in the last 3 videos that we've looked at, we've discovered that asking for money is really challenging. And we really want to be thinking about value rather than the money, because value is about exchange and it needs to be fair. So rather than, if you're feeling uncomfortable about thinking about that number, you do need to do that, but think about the value of that number. The value I bring to my team is worthy of that number, rather than just that number, because that can feel greedy. You need to know what you want, and you need to believe that you have the right to ask for it. Because if you don't believe you have the right to ask for it, not get it, that's different, but ask for it, then that is going to come across in your body, your breath, and your voice. And you need to have those clear boundaries. So make that bubble, use that Macintosh, create a boundary where you're saying, no, that's your stuff, and I'm not going to take that on. We need to navigate the actual territory. So deal with the person in front of you, what is, rather than what you'd prefer. So if they are becoming aggressive or they are being kind, how are you best going to deal with that? So how are you going to pin down the cloud, or how are you going to push away the aggression that is not your stuff? And one of the big ways of doing that is by staying in your power. So managing your mindset, that will help manage your body, your breath, and your voice. Keeping your palms up, keeping your hands on your thighs and the palms facing up, keeping your feet flat on the floor, and keeping in that belief that you have a right to ask for this money. Not a right to receive it, but a right to ask for it and have this conversation in a calm and adult fashion. Because the more you can convince yourself and tell yourself that that is the case, and it really is the case, then the easier that conversation is going to be. If you have specifics that you need to talk to me about, you can DM me, email me at emma@speakingatwork. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation about how we can get you a pay rise. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye now.